Welcome back once more to Inside Politics here on KTN News. Many thanks for staying with us. We have been speaking about the purported death of Parliament, the changes that have been ongoing with the leadership of various departmental committees. A very common theme being the fallout between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy, William Ruto. Now, we did report on the Saturday Standard about a plan by the president to expel the so-called rebel Ruto MPs. They are set to face disciplinary action. They include, of course, Soy Member of Parliament, who is also the Jubilee Deputy Secretary General, Caleb Kositan. There is Bahati Member of Parliament, Kimani Ngunjiri, Kapseret MP, Oscar Sudi, Madira MP, Rigathi Gachagua, as well as Gatundu South MP, Moses Kuria, and his Kandara counterpart Alice Wahome, some of the staunch Ruto supporters in various parts of the country, including central Kenya. Of course, remember the 5 nominated senators that had been sat before the disciplinary committee await their fate. Now we're asking this question: where did the rain start beating UHURUTO, the so-called dynamic duo? They started very well. Where did the problems begin? Let me begin with you, Mark Bichachi. What's your take on this?
Ben, the truth is, and Wakili alluded to this, that from 2013 to 2017, I think Uhuru woke up to the reality that his deputy was pursuing a very different agenda from his own. That agenda is detailed by different people differently. But I would like to borrow the words of Murathe when he declared the divorce between Uhuru and Ruto and purportedly resigned from vice chair of Jubilee, where he said that William Ruto seemed to have pursued personal and pocket interests while the president was pursuing national interests. That further deteriorated into the very real reality that the deputy president was and is still more interested in his own candidature in 2022 than he is in actually running this country and making sure that it succeeds. Now, you know the old adage that says when the center does not hold, things fall apart. Indeed, it is Jesus himself who said, how can two walk together unless they agree?
But Mark, I don't think the deputy president's presidential ambitions are anything new that the hierarchy at Jubilee did not know about. In fact, they talked about 20 years of being in power. So why was this becoming an issue all of a sudden, in your view?
Well, it became an issue when it became an obsession. Ben, there's nothing wrong with you eating lunch. There's something absolutely wrong with you eating lunch every 5 minutes of your life. And equally, in a democratic system such as ours, there's nothing wrong with someone wanting to be president. There's everything wrong, though, that when you're actively involved in the administration of a country, being actively campaigning for a position 5 years before it even begins to fall due. Then let's not forget that the obvious incursions and sabotage within the houses of parliament and within central Kenya to try and win legislators to his side. The same legislators, by the way, Ben, if you check the record, twice have tried to impeach the president. So how then could it be that Uhuru Kenyatta was expected to basically work with someone who would be a turncoat at any time? So the reality of the matter is that marriage was untenable, but Uhuru Kenyatta, I don't know whether in wisdom or by sheer luck, sought to seek an insurance policy in the person of Raila Odinga. And let me tell you, and I've said this before on this show, Uhuru Kenyatta's administration is underwritten, insured, and ensured by Raila Odinga and ODM. Without such a marriage, I'm telling you, Uhuru Kenyatta would have no legacy and probably no presidency to speak about today.
All right. So the rain started beating them, according to you, Mark, after the 2017 election?
No, 2013 to 2017.
Immediately after the first election.
Yes.
All right. Dismas, what do you think?
Well, you know, this thing is very complicated because it's a relationship between two personalities, and nobody knows for a fact what brought them together in 2017. But in the public space, they say that they came together to ensure that we don't get into any violence after the election. But is really that the true picture? Could it be that the dispute is around commercial interest? Who knows? Is it around political interest? Who knows? But what is in the public domain is very clear. That President Kenyatta is focused on his legacy, while the deputy is focused on succession. Now, those two items cannot exist in one room at the same time. They're mutually exclusive. And you know, we've said times above number that there is nothing which would have been easier for the deputy president than to stay calm, wait, support the president's agenda till 2022, and then the president would give him unlimited support. And you know, a lot of books have been written and scholars have made all these comments. The number one, never ever attempt to outshine your boss. Then number two, if you're the deputy president, you have to remain loyal. And the deputy president had the option of studying Daniel Arap Moi on how he behaved when he was the vice president of the Republic of Kenya. Or even now the current US vice president behaves, because when Trump is in action, the vice president disappears into a dark corner and only surfaces when he's called upon. But you cannot be the deputy president and your boss is around and you assume that you are in fact a co-president. You're supposed to be a deputy president. You cannot be a co-president. And you must ensure that at all times your agenda is consistent with your boss's agenda. The moment you start pulling in the opposite direction, then you get into a lot of trouble. And there's the example of Atiku Abubakar in Nigeria, who decided that he's had enough of Obasanjo and he was going to pull in a different direction, and the things went haywire. So the deputy president has nobody but himself to blame for this environment where he finds himself in. There is no way your boss would tell you, calm down, let's work on my legacy. And then at the beginning of 2022, I'll give you unlimited support. And then you flip the bird on him, you go to his constituency, get all his members of parliament and make sure that they are following you. Maybe you are giving them incentives, financial or otherwise. Then you start, throwing insults at the president and his family. And then you expect that the president will be giving you a red rose every single day. And maybe what the deputy president needs to ask himself, if he becomes the president of the Republic of Kenya, would he like to have his deputy spend all his time in Sugoi, having nocturnal meetings with those MCAs, members of the National Assembly, and senators, while he's in office trying to deliver? I don't think he'd want to be in that position. But at the end of the day, we need to ask ourselves one question. Whatever the president is doing today, and whatever the deputy president is doing today, and Raila Odinga, do they serve our national interest and our public interest? Because those three powerful personalities today are not supposed to be playing political games on Kenyans, but they're supposed to be ensuring that our economy is growing. Because right now, believe you me, nobody is scared on what the president is doing, or the deputy is doing, or Raila Odinga is doing. We're interested to know whether this evening we'll be having bread on our table, whether we'll be able to buy matumbo for supper. The rest really do not count.
Is that the relationship between the head of state and his deputy broke down years ago. Should Kenyans be protected from their personal issues by the institution called the political party, that is the ruling political party? Should it be intact, devoid of all the drama and the personal issues between the two of them? Should Kenyans be protected from that?
Well, a political party would protect Kenya if it's a political party, like, say, in the UK or in the US, parties which are 50 years old, 100 years old, which have got very strong institutions, or you have very strong systems that survive without the benefits of these political parties. But when you look at Jubilee has got two shareholders, and the recent events have indicated that you actually have a majority shareholder and a minority shareholder. So the majority shareholder, who is President Kenyatta, has taken over and is running the party as he deems fit. The minority shareholder now is throwing tantrums and making a lot of noise and, daring people to be expelled. And if Jubilee wanted to expel anybody, they would be wasting time to expel people who come from Ruto's backyard, like, say, Sudi or Kositani, but they'll achieve serious bonga points if they expel people from President Kenyatta as a power base. Because if you expel, say, Moses Kuria or Waume, and then you go for a by-election with or without COVID, then probability of an Uhuru candidate winning is almost 1. But if you do it for Sudi, you'll be wasting your time. Or maybe the nominated people should go home. So for us as a nation, we should invest a lot of resources in creating political parties which are anchored on ideals. But right now, our political parties are special purpose vehicles owned by, very specific. So like if you go to the ODM, the reason why every single elected person in ODM has to dance to Raila as a drumbeat, because for Raila, fortunately, it's just a single shareholder for that political party. But for Jubilee, you have two shareholders.
2 centers of power.
Yeah,
okay.
2 centers of power. And unfortunately for the deputy president, he doesn't know when the AGM is going to be called, and he has no access to bank accounts. So the majority shareholder has got authority over everything.
All right. Ishmael, Kenyans had a lot of hope in 2013 when the Jubilee administration came to power. Remember the former president, Mwai Kibaki, describing the two as a dynamic duo. In your opinion, when did things change?
Just to add, Ben, that Kenyans should take advantage of the political parties tribunal to grow democracy within the party, even though, like Dismas says, parties appear to be belonging to specific individuals. But for us to grow democracy in parties, we must test any decisions by the political parties in the tribunal. Now, coming to a question, Ben, when did the rain start beating? I have a very simplistic approach. I think that the moment William Ruto brought together what he calls the hustler nation and decided to drive direct into the, minority, rich and powerful politicians, and that's where the problems started. The mentality of a hustler is he will just wake up in the morning and, this mantra of double, and then he becomes rich overnight. And this actually, if you look at William Ruto since 2013, from the time he was an MP, became agriculture minister, then grew his fortunes through the ranks, he was always bringing himself out as a person who is not in the dynasty, he has just come from the poor, and is really intending to help the hustlers. So I think this is where the problem was. You are a hustler, you come in, you find guys who have been planting coffee, selling charcoal for years, and then they have become politicians, and they have created their own network, and they are around the president. And then you come in with the hustler mentality, you actually dislodge them. If you remember in 2017, the biggest complaint was that the DP used his powers within Jubilee to make sure that certain people who were strong and who had built their political careers upwards did not come back to parliament. And I think this is where the rain started beating the two of them. So I can comfortably say that William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta do not come from the same source, quote unquote, and they do not have similar destinations. These are totally two different people. They were only brought together by the ICC problems, and they decided to run president and deputy. And it is very clear in 2020 and since 2018 that they were not meant actually to be together. And this has caused a lot of havoc, a lot of problems to the citizens. And I think it is now correct to everybody. It's apparent to everybody that now they must stay apart for the country to move forward. Now, if you ask Ben whether their conduct as president and deputy within Jubilee, how is an ordinary citizen protected? If you ask that question, clearly we are in murky waters right now. We are in a problem. I would not even want to take a moment to imagine what benefit their relationship is giving the country. It should end sooner than later, and we go through BBI, and we come back to an independent nation through parliament, through politicians who mean good for the nation.
All right. Rosalind, what's your take on this?
Maybe just to start from what Ishmael had said, if you look at 2013, it was a marriage of convenience, because remember we had the TNA and we had the URP. So we had William Ruto as the party leader of URP, and we had the president as the party leader of TNA. And then they were also brought together because of the ICC issue where they were carrying this load. Now, if you look at that, in 2017, first, we didn't have the ICC issue. Second, we came on the platform of the Big Four agenda. And third, we were coming in as Ruto was now looking at it as taking over from President Uhuru in 2022 after they decided to collapse their parties and make them one. So here is a case where we had 13 political parties collapsed, whereas NASA decided to retain their identities and come in as a coalition. Now, Ruto and Uhuru find themselves in a very difficult position where they are now in this bandwagon of one party, where it's either you are in or you are out and lose it. And then here is a case where we have a constitution where the president cannot just wake up and fire the deputy president. You have to impeach him, and the other way. So here you are held in the hip. You can't do away with the other. You have also done away with your former identities, the political parties, and now you are in one. And that is why Ruto is facing all these challenges, because if he had his own identity, then he will have approached any issues that they had based on the party that he's coming in with and what he's putting on the table. So as much as we're talking about this total fallout, is where they're finding themselves in a spot where none can do away with the other, as much as they will not want to look at each other, like we talk about the social distancing and all that. So I think this is also a wake-up call. And I think it has also taught us that even as per the Constitution, the Political Parties Act that we had, and we also came up with the Political Party Fund, it has not cured the issue of purpose vehicles for specific politicians, because we thought that because the political parties are funded by the taxpayers' money, it was going to represent the interest, ideologies, and principles, and maybe the party manifestos that they used when they seek elections. But we are seeing this is not the case. As much as we are funding these political parties by taxpayers' money, it still boils down to who is the owner of the political party.
But Ben, this thing, when you look at the theory and practice, those are two different worlds. In theory, the deputy president is the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, William Samoei Ruto. He's in the middle of things. He knows what is happening in Kenya and is discharging his constitutional office. And the deputy president is supposed to be the principal assistant to the president.
He just said he doesn't know when the Jubilee will hold its AGM.
Yes, now I'm prosecuting my case. Now, right now, you've seen that we've been under COVID, and one would have expected that the deputy president would be seated next to the president, you know, coming up with these decisions, assisting him take a decision after receiving all the briefings from the people who understand science, people who understand politics, people who understand public health, that the president and his deputy would go to an inner sanctum and take decisions. But it's very surprising, not a single COVID have you seen the deputy president standing next to the president while the president is making his orders or giving the nation direction. I think right now as it is, the deputy president has been reduced to a ceremonial office holder with a motorcade and with security. Because how do you tell people that you are the deputy president when you have no knowledge of the decisions being taken in the Republic of Kenya, when, like Mura, you're watching your boss address the nation on TV? We expect that the president and his deputy are joined at the hip, like Pence and Donald Trump, that they're taking decisions so that they enjoy the benefits of good decisions and the liabilities of the bad decisions.
If they decide they're not wearing face masks, they decide both of them.
Yeah, both of them. But
like
right
Trump
now,
and Pence.
But right now, even the key players of the deputy president's team, they get surprised like the rest of us. You know, for us in media, you get an update the same time the deputy president is getting it and his key players.
All right, let me come back to Ishmael for something that Rosalind mentioned. You said that the two of them totally had nothing in common, that they were just brought together by the ICC. But like she mentioned, like I was going to point out, that was before 2012 and 2013. But they went through the 5 years together, and then they sought re-election again through the same ticket. And they went further than that in 2016, collapsing their political parties to form one political party. That was a bold, big move. Don't you think that they had some kind of vision and dream for this country?
Well, well, I believe the president and also the deputy president actually had a vision, but it was distracted because, as I told you, the deputy president has coined himself for us to see him as a hustler. And as I said, he started moving and pulling away from a man who is not a hustler. I mean, you look at it that way. But if you ask me why they why they were together for over 5 years, 2013 to 2017, it was for convenience. I mean, they knew that I cannot do away with the deputy president. Deputy president understood that he cannot do away with the president, because they knew the other third person there, who is Raila Odinga, was lethal in politics. He would have taken it up. So I do not believe that the love shown in public between 2013 and 2017 was because they wanted to serve Kenya and they wanted to give us the correct results. It was a marriage of convenience. That's my understanding.
Mark Bichachi, what do you think? It seems to have been a mistake with hindsight to dissolve their political parties and form one big political party called Jubilee. In your view, who has lost more between the two?
You know, this is an interesting game of chess, and let's follow the trail. Number one, let's remember that it seemed that during the nominations, the Jubilee Party nominations, especially in Central, it would seem that at the time Ruto had the advantage. How so? He had many of the legislators and many of the senators, and indeed some of the governors in his pocket. Now, why was that an upper hand? You must understand that Jubilee is a specialist of winning elections by combining Mount Kenya and the Rift Valley vote. Ruto was and is confident that he had the Rift Valley vote, and therefore, by seeming to pull together the political class of Mount Kenya, he thought he would pull one up against the president. However, it seems that the loyalty that he thought he had gotten himself was not enough, number one, to deal with the significant power that Uhuru Kenyatta still has within Central Kenya. And this can be a testimony to the number of people who are lining up to get his blessing in Central Kenya. But number two, he did not calculate the enigma and the force that is someone called Raila Odinga. So the summation of it is this, that in 2017, William Ruto tried to sweep the rug from Uhuru Kenyatta. That's what happened in terms of the legislators that he thought he had put in his bag. However, in the time that ensued, he didn't realize that within the party constitution and the party structures, Uhuru Kenyatta had put a fail-safe, and that fail-safe was in the person of Murade. That fail-safe is in the Secretary General. That fail-safe is in the actual constitution of the Jubilee political party. But thirdly, and one political lesson that I hope everyone learns in this period, is that you cannot pay for loyalty. You can pay for people to speak. You can pay for people to show up in your meetings. But when push comes to shove and they sit in front of the disciplinary committee, they will quickly say how they missed their 1,000 phone calls from the president, and they are profusely apologetic despite what benefits they've gotten from you before.
Possible, Mark, in your theory that the so-called people who are in the DP's pocket are just laying low, waiting for the scarecrow to go away so that they can come back?
That's definitely the case. We know for a fact that none of the people in Tanga can look the president in the eye and say the things that they say outside of his presence. This, you remember, when the president was going to open up Rivertex, sorry, in Eldoret. And then they had said they will not attend. They said it will not be a peaceful meeting. And they all stood up to thank the president profusely. They changed their tune. So definitely, the president looms large on Tanga Tanga. They are afraid of him, significantly so. But as we get closer to the elections, where the threat of either losing their positions or losing an election is lifted, then some of them will come out of the woodworks. But I can tell you for free, some of them were in it only for the gravy train. And once the gravy was cut off, you can see how big the numbers are now, or purported numbers for that matter.
Enough said. A lot happening in the Jubilee Party, made more complicated by that handshake deal with ODM, with the Raila Odinga's ODM party. We will continue to keep an eye on that for you. Let's take another quick commercial break. One final one here on Inside Politics. Don't go too far. Be on standby to call us, call in with your views, comments, and questions. Have the final say on our discussions today.